Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of Miyagi Mornings. I believe this is episode 38. That seems right. It is a Wednesday, so it should be an 8, right? This time around, anyway. Inside behind the desk, again, instead of outside in the beautiful world in front of the Miyagi pond or some other part of the property. And the reason today isn't cold or wind, it's rain. It's raining pretty good out there, and well, rain and electronics do not play well together. Even if I don't mind being a wet jack Spirko, I think my camera might mind being a wet camera. And then, even if nothing happens to it, it would make rainy drops all over the thing, and you wouldn't really enjoy the video very much. If you're listening on the recap podcast, it's published on Saturday mornings when I don't screw it up. None of this matters. Anyway, but talking about the weather I do from time to time, because that's what friends do, and I consider everybody that follows me and supports what I do to be a friend. So today I went on MeWe and I said, subjects for the next 3 Miyagi Mornings videos, which is how many we have left this week, counting this one, go. And I got a bunch of great ones. Some that I might do this week, some like there's way more than 3, so I can't do them all. The one that hit me and I was like, I really think that would be a great thing to talk about today is somebody asked me what skills I wanted to gain in 2021. And I'm a big person on skills. I even started a website at one time called Save Our Skills, turned it over to somebody to run, and it didn't really go very far after that because, well, you give people an opportunity. Instead of making them work for it, they tend not to capitalize on it. But I'm big on building skill sets. And I decided that since I had like 3 skills I wanted to give you, and that's not much of a list, that I would give you 3 skills and 3 goals that I have for myself in 2021. And I think it's important as a leader to set that kind of an example. And I wanted to start out actually today with a funny thing about learning. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and I still struggle with something. And that's why I have the 3 goals that I have today, because they really require me to kind of start from maybe not square 1 with them, but like square 3 or 4. It's easy to keep learning about things you already know about. And as we age, that becomes more and more the case, because the more you know about a thing, the easier it is to learn the next thing about a thing. But there's a weird reversal that happens when you're young and you're hungry for knowledge, and you're humble in the fact that you don't know, and you're not marketing yourself as an expert either to friends and family or to the world abroad. It's real easy to be humble and say, I don't know jack diddly squat about skill ABC, so I can start at 0. As we get older, it's a combination of some level of pride, but I think that's the lesser of the two. The other is the way synapses form in our brain and how we learn changes as we age. And it's very easy to get what all old guys like me say, set in our ways. And I think that just as learning itself is a skill, learning entirely new things is a skill. So it's very different for me to learn more about aquaculture as a thing, which I already have extensive knowledge about, than it is for me to take up something I've never done before and learn about it, even if some of the things I know translate. And that's true for everybody. It's true when you're a little kid, and it's true when you're a grown man. It works more against you the older you get. Again, set in our ways. So here's 3 things that I know very little or nothing about that I want to add to my repertoire of skills that I can accomplish in 2021. And they're all either homestead or plant related, right? So the first one is plant breeding. You might be thinking, Jack, you know all about plant breeding. No, I know all about seed saving. I know all about natural hybridization. I know about a whole bunch about plants, but I've never done selective, intentional plant breeding in my life. And the place that interests me the most about this is one of my favorite things to grow is peppers. I'm known as the pepper whisperer by some friends because they come over here in the summer and they're just like, oh my, there's peppers everywhere. Every color of the rainbow. But they're all peppers somebody else developed. I do have a jalapeno line that I grow, but that's just seed saving. It's not plant breeding. What I mean by plant breeding is, well, what happens if you take something like a Marconi pepper and a poblano pepper and cross them? And what happens when you cross them one way versus the other? So peppers are a perfect flower, and so you have pollen and pistil in both, and so you have to actually it's almost surgical. I've looked at a couple of videos of how you do it, and it seems kind of time consuming. You have to take the flower apart before it opens and very carefully separate the components. And then what you end up with is pollen in a little petri dish or something like that. And then you can take that pollen, you can open the other variety and make sure that all the pollen is taken from that flower. Because again, we have male and female inside the same flower with peppers. It's easier when you have a male and female fruit. And then you apply the pollen to the new plant and you cover it up with like a little bit of foil or something. And you label that with like a little twisty tie. And then you see what you get. Now you're going to have what's called an F1 hybrid, which means you've made a single cross. Here's the interesting thing. If you take the pollen from the Marconi to the Poblano, you get a different result than if you take the pollen from the Poblano to the Marconi. Now that's really interesting to me. And I don't think you're thinking, it's a hybrid, it's a GMO. No, we're not even getting into GMOs today. But what's interesting to me then is you have two totally different results from a single cross. It's just in opposite directions. Then what happens if we take that resulting F1 hybrid and plant the seeds from that generation? You're going to get some drift, genetic drift, back to your two original peppers, but you're going to get about 1/7 will be what's called true to type. They'll match the new variety, and we can grow that out over 4 to 7 generations and prove it out as a new variety. And then we can take that variety and we can cross it with other things. To me, this is incredibly interesting. It requires some skills that I'm kind of weak on. Patience. I'm not real big on patience, especially with little tiny things. I don't have the best eyes. That's why my one eye always seems to be like off in nowhere land because I'm blind in it. It requires time. It requires extensive record keeping. These are all things I need to beef up on, so what a great skill. Next up is viticulture. What the hell is viticulture? Is that growing vin Armanis? No, viticulture is growing grapes. So I've grown a lot of things in my life. I've never grown and maintained grapes. I pruned grapevines for my grandfather when I was a kid, but those grapevines were 75 years old by the time I touched them. I had nothing to do with their form and shape. And I'm putting in some gardens this year that are designed for perennials, and one component of them will be grapes. And I'll be doing an unconventional method of training grapevines due to the structure, which I can't get into today. But it's still going to require the knowledge of how to thin grapes, leaf stripping when appropriate, back pruning, structure, etc. It's a whole discipline onto itself. So I'll be embarking on that, and it takes about 3 years to produce your first good crop of grapes. So it'll be a 3-year journey for me, but I'll begin the journey this year in 2021. Next up is solar design and installation. Now, I do know a little bit about this, but I want to take it to another level. I'll at least be doing some projects with backup pumping for my ponds, which is something that's actually really easy to do, and I probably need about 5 minutes to look up some parts, and I can do it. But I'm thinking about taking it to another level and starting to develop my own solar system for my home this year. And I've got some help with that, and that would be another one that I'll be working on as well. Now, that's budget-minded, like it costs money to do that at a larger scale, but we'll do something more with it. And I do know a little bit about solar, so maybe that one's cheating a bit, but the type of thing I want to do is a whole new level for me. Goals for this year. Number 1, I want to get my damn book published. I wrote the book. It's been finished since last year. It's been edited. It's ready to go. I need to get it formatted and printed and out the door. It's called Laws of Life, and I need to get that done. I've kind of pigeonholed myself to where it's imperative that a website that goes along with it comes out first. So I need to just get off my rear end and build out that website and get that book out the door, because it's basically ready to go. It's over 60,000 words. It's my treatise on how to live life on your own terms and how to live life in a way that will build you prosperity. Next up, I want to develop a crypto-only side business. That's in progress with a friend. And so I want a website that you can go to and you can buy something from. And the only thing you can do if you want to buy stuff there is spend cryptocurrency, or you don't get nothing. Because I want to kind of stand behind my principle that this is the way going forward to enable trade between individuals and getting third parties out of the equation, because the third parties in these situations are the banks and they're not your friends. And goal 3, I want to create some sort of permaculture training course. A lot of people have been on me to come out with my own PDC or permaculture design course. I think there's plenty of those and plenty of options. And my actual issue with permaculture design courses is they're so designed to be globally applicable that they often seem to me to have too much information on certain biomes that most people are never going to work in, and a lack of resources that most people probably won't experience, and not enough focus on things like, well, what the hell do I plant in my climate? Coming out of Australia, and specifically the subtropics and tropics, depending on exactly where in Australia you are, there's a lot of focus on things that people look at and go, I can't grow that. And it's not really a critique of PDCs, just also a hell of a lot of y'all have already taken one. But I've been thinking about putting something together that's maybe more a PPC, a practical permaculture course designed for people on anything from an urban property to small to mid-size acreage up to about 5 acres, and how to actually do things that are directly beneficial to you from a permaculture perspective, more for the person that wants to design their property and make their property better than somebody wants to go out and do it as a consultant for somebody else. So there you go. Those are my 3 skills and 3 goals for 2021. This is what I want from you. You knew it was coming, didn't you? How about down there in the video comments, you tell me the skills you want to develop in 2021 that you'll commit to right now. You're going to get it done. And any goals that you have for 2021 as well. And don't cheap out and be like, my goal of 2021 is to survive it, right? You're going to get through it. We're going to help you do that. With that, it's been Jack Spirko with another episode of Miyagi Mornings. I'll be coming back to you 2 more times this week. And remember, you can catch the recap episode on Saturday mornings on iTunes, Stitcher, and other podcast services.